Is a fabulous fabric from the land of the five rivers.
Years ago, when we came to Los Angeles, I really believed that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
For another edition of the 50-50 show, man. If y'all don't know, now you know, man. Hey, me and Severe are collabing. We are going live on both channels, so make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time we go live. It's a late night edition, man. It's a late night edition. People love
it's early for us, man. This early for us, man. You talking about?
Hey, for real, we just come through, chop up some good, talk about football, the Raiders, man, and it's a lot to talk about, man. Raiders are always gonna be the Raiders, man. Can we agree on that, man? They always gonna be the Raiders, man.
Hey, we need to change this show to the name of the show to As the Nation Turns, man, because it's always some drama, man. Always some drama.
Ooh, that's a little too big. Hold on one second. Let me correct this. Whew. Man, but my guy, Raider Pete in the building. We appreciate everybody coming through to this late night edition of the 50-50 show. Like I said, with me, myself, Pharaoh, and the Severe Raider, but call him Severe or Severe Raider.
Yes,
Raider
sir.
Pete says Pharaoh and chat, and I'm sure he's talking to Severe as well. No word, press release by the team on Getsy equals Bieniemy Vegas bound. Ooh, okay. Okay, so he's calling it out. He's starting the conversation early, but he's calling Bieniemy. But that is true. At this point, we can't trust reports now because the Raiders have shown us Adam Schefter could announce the hiring. Ian Rappaport could announce the.
Yeah.
They didn't announce the hiring, but they implied that the Raiders and Kingsbury were all but a done deal. Like it was going to be official.
It seemed like it was, man. No, what they did keep saying, like I did keep saying the language. They said they were closing in on the deal. They never officially said a deal, and because they couldn't because it never happened.
Which they consistently do. They're pretty consistent with dropping breaking news, but they give themselves a little bit of leg room with how they word some of these breaking news.
Yeah, man.
Player is expected to be traded or expected to sign with this team. So they give them a little bit, because anything can happen.
Always gotta give yourself some. Always gotta Rajon that thing, if you know what I'm talking about.
Steve Orlando says Jacobs probably coming back, and we might get a day 3 running back. It's possible. I mean, hey man, if Luke Getsy is the offensive coordinator, expect to run that ball, and if Josh Jacobs comes back, and the contract is reasonable, I think in my opinion, I think the Raiders have the leverage here compared to his career year he had the year before in 2022. He was injured, he was hurt, and I think he wants to come back. So I'm sure he's gonna come back to a fair deal, which I have no problem. I think, especially if if he comes back to a team that. With Luke Getsy at OC and obviously they want to establish the run. If we're going to draft a rookie QB, you can understand a run game could really help out a young QB or even a veteran QB. You know what I mean? I feel like Antonio Pierce wants to build a physical brand of football with the Raiders. He has that established on defense, but offense needs to come through in 2024. But salute to everybody in chat, man. Raider Rays coming through. Gotti Show Enough Podcast says, yes, sir. Salute to the Raiders, man. Appreciate everybody coming through. My God, Digital Press.
Salute.
Raider Resistance. Go ahead. Hey, if y'all ain't following Raiders Resistance on IG, one of the best IGs out there for breaking Raider news stories. So make sure to follow my guy Digital Press. If you don't know, now you know. Daniel Kim. One of my mods, man. My mods, one of the best mods on this channel.
Facts.
It's consistent. Appreciate you coming through, man. We appreciate everybody coming through. But you want to let's just get into it, man.
Let's hop right into it, man.
Let's get into this conversation that's been happening in the last few days with the Raiders. Obviously, we thought it was going to be Kliff Kingsbury, but it was something different happened. But actually, before we even get to that, let's talk about the Senior Bowl, man.
We did have the Senior Bowl, man. The Senior Bowl happened on Saturday. If anybody saw the Senior Bowl, it was a underwhelming event. It was like watching the Raiders offense last year throughout the most of the year, man. It was a low-scoring game, turnovers galore, and it just wasn't, it lacked the star power, It just wasn't a very entertaining game, man. And a lot of the guys I wanted to see in the game, unfortunately, they didn't participate. This year, I mean, I think it started last year, but they started making juniors eligible to play in the Senior Bowl as well. If you're a junior, you're coming out, you're eligible to play in the Senior Bowl. But of the big name guys, the only one that really played was Bo Nix, and he was out there for a very short period of time. And then I guess the other big name guy, not really a big name guy, but a person we've been talking about a lot, Joe Milton, he went out there and it was not a good showing, man. So it wasn't that great an event, man. It wasn't that great an event, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but there were some guys that showed out. I felt like there were some O-linemen that kind of showed out. The corner I think position kind of showed out as well. Like guys like Keon Mitchell, and obviously some centers that stood out. You know what I mean? Like Jackson Powers Johnson, or Johnson out of Oregon. And it looks like possibly Andre James is not going to be coming back. So that interior O-line, there might be some new guys yet again. I feel like, well, not yet again. I think it's time to have some new guys. I think we need to add some talent. I'm not sure if we're gonna address that position. It's possible. You know what I mean? Like, because you never know. You're going into a draft where you think that you're gonna trade up. You know what I mean? You think you're gonna trade up. That means we're gonna give up some of those mid-round picks, and that's gonna be a spot that you would want to take a center at. But like I said, there were some players that stood out. I think Spencer Rattler was probably. You know what I mean? Like, hold on one second. You never know. My bad. But I was saying, I think Spencer Rattler was probably the best QB out there as far as his performance-wise. I'm not saying he's the best prospect that played, because obviously Bo Nix and Penix also played as well. Well, they didn't play in the bowl game, but they practiced in the Senior Bowl practice week. Yeah. And then I think the bowl game, Bo Nix played. He played a little. Spencer Rattler played a series. Yeah. And Joe Milton, man, I don't know, man. As one of those guys, man. Hey, the Raiders playing at quarterback, I don't think Joe Milton shouldn't be on number 1 on that list. I'm just gonna keep it that way. But it's a long process for him, because I think for him, his draft stock is probably gonna go up during the combine, where people are gonna see his arm, his obviously athletic ability. He's a big quarterback, but as far as his Senior Bowl and just him as a quarterback prospect, he might be a little bit raw. And then how old is he? He's 24 years old. He's about to turn 24.
About to be 24.
So it's like, oh man, like how long is this? How long is it gonna take you to develop into the quarterback that you want? Those types of, I like to take those type of quarterbacks young, because there's time for them to grow within their skill set.
Exactly.
But
yeah, man, like the biggest winner, of course, the biggest winners, man, like Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. Of all the quarterbacks, the guys that didn't really, that weren't involved with the Senior Bowl at all, those are the biggest winners, because the quarterback play left much to be desired. And that's just only going to make those guys look that much better and be that much more valuable, man, which is not really a great thing for us, because if we're trying to get up into like the top 4, top 3 possibly to take a quarterback, it might have just got a little bit more expensive, man, because none of those other quarterbacks looked like they were really, really that guy. Michael Penix had a good week of practice. Penix had a good week of practice. So, that could have been a reason. Maybe he felt he had shown enough during the practice. He was up and down, but, he had some flashes. He was probably the best quarterback there. So I think maybe he decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna rest on what I've done. Y'all got the tape of me, and I'm gonna let the tape speak for itself. So maybe that's a guy we consider. But like I said, man, everybody's draft stock for the most part that participated, not a lot of guys helped themselves. Maybe Spencer Rattler helped himself a little bit, but everybody else, man, I don't think there's anybody else that really helped himself.
Well, I mean, Spencer Rattler, Braden Fisk from Florida State, D tackle. Yeah. And I'm mentioning positions where Raiders could use these players. You know what I mean? Cornerback Keon Mitchell, like I mentioned earlier. O-tackle Talise Fuaga from Oregon State. Yeah. Helped him out a little bit.
Yeah, throughout the practices, yeah.
Yeah.
Keon Mitchell was a guy, bro. He looked during the practices. He looked great. He was probably the best corner. He was probably the best defensive player out there. I mean, him and Latu were probably the 2 best guys out there, man. So, but Keon Mitchell looked extremely impressive.
Keon Mitchell and Roman Wilson were going at it. That was like a lot of people were paying attention to that. And Roman Wilson helped himself out. But to be honest with you,
right?
Michigan. But to be honest with you, like, I don't think what happens in the Senior Bowl as far as how the players play, like, really affects their draft position like that too much. I think what's big is it's just a piece of the draft process that can be really helpful, meaning that, like, I think they get an extra like 40 minutes with like a draft prospect in the Senior Bowl compared to, like, obviously the combine. The combine is very strict. Exactly. You don't have a lot of time compared to the Senior Bowl. So imagine talking to Michael Penix asking him a whole bunch of questions. What will you do in this situation? Just picking his brain so you can see how he kind of process things. Bo Nix, same thing. I'm just saying, like, the Raiders are talking to all these guys. They're having a conversation, and they're trying to figure out, okay, is this guy a good fit for this organization? Because you hear AP, you know what I mean, talking about, hey, man, not everybody can play for the Raiders. Not everybody can play or coach with the Raiders. So there's going to be a specific type that they're going to bring on. Obviously, we want the player got to be talented, but also he has to be a fit within the team, the locker room. No Cleveland Farrell type picks, you know, in the top 5. He was a good fit, culture fit, but like top 5, you know what I mean? But point taken. He understands that, like, in order to have a successful team, you got to have a team with chemistry. They got to fit with the guys in the room, you know what I mean? In the locker room, so to speak. So I think that, you know, talking to some of these players is real helpful. And it's only gonna add to their, you know, their draft process when they narrow down who they're gonna get in the first round, second round, or wherever. But yeah, man, the Senior Bowl happens every year, man. And the Raiders are gonna be back next year, and they're gonna be scouting. But I think that there's gonna be some players that they can possibly draft out of here. It just really depends if they even have those picks later on in the draft. Because I don't know if there's anybody in the first round that they would take, other than possibly maybe, you know, Bo Nix. Keon Mitchell might be later, down to the latter part of the draft. You know what I mean? Maybe a mid-round, mid first round pick. Yeah. But that's if the Raiders trade down. I'm not sure if they would even trade down, to be honest with you.
I mean, Fuaga is a guy that, you know, even though that's kind of high for a right tackle, but Fuaga is a guy that's a possibility. Latham, I don't remember if he was there or not, but Latham is a guy that's a possibility. It's another right tackle. But yeah, Keon Mitchell will be a guy if you trade down. That's a possibility there. Penix and Nick, so those are the likely guys that you would take at the Senior Bowl. Tom Telesco has a history of taking guys from the Senior Bowl, as a matter of fact. So he's a guy that likes that extra time with players, you know, getting to know them, and I think he's taken. I can't remember if it's more guys recently in the Senior Bowl than any other GM, but he's one of the highest in terms of, you know, players selected that participated in the Senior Bowl. So, we could have seen some future Raiders through those practices and in that game.
Yeah, man, it's always possible. There's been a few players that played in the Super Bowl that the Senior Bowl that the Raiders have drafted in the past, and it could be real helpful for teams to narrow down who would be a fit for their team. Just like I said, AP had a letter today to Raider Nation. If y'all didn't check it out, classic AP. Yeah. That's all I got to say. Just if you read the letter, it's classic AP. Reading it, I can just picture him just talking in front of a locker room, in front of in front of everybody, just letting his passion for the Raiders show through. And he said some interesting things. You know, he kind of implied, like, you know, the guys in the locker room that want to wear the gold jackets, and he was talking about the Max Crosbys and the Devontae Adams and the Josh Jacobs. So Josh Jacobs is coming back. I'm just letting you know, he's coming back.
We'll see, man. We'll see.
He's coming back, man, because he got someone behind him. He got someone behind him that's the sport. I think Josh Jacobs wants to come back. You heard his comments. He said before the season he was like, I'm gone. Like he kind of like, you know, it is what it is. But I think we got a special. We got someone in the chat that's supporting the brand. My guy Raider Smoke with the super chat, man. I appreciate you, my guy. He says, salute to you both. What are your thoughts of taking Penix in the first round? I think moving up to top 3 will be real tough. I 100% agree. I'm at a place where I don't think it's going to happen. Not because the Raiders don't want to move up. I don't think that's going to be the issue. It's just it takes 2 to tango, and I don't think the 3 teams will really budge. Or if they do, I mean, the team that's probably going to trade up the most is probably the Commanders. Yeah. And I think the Bears can manipulate this whole process and just trade down one spot, get a whole bunch of picks from a Commanders team, and still get their guys. So I think that might happen, but for the most part, I don't think the Raiders are going to have an opportunity to trade up like that. We'll see how it shakes out, because guys like Bo Nix, their draft stock might go up a little bit more. Michael Penix, I don't know, man. He's one of those, like, I don't know. And shout out to my guy, Big Mike. He's a big supporter of Michael Penix, and it's just your injuries. I think everything, they're gonna take the totality of his body of work. The injured knees. When he wasn't getting protected, you could see that he was kind of struggling a little bit, because Washington had one of the best O-lines in college football. They were protecting the hell out of him. So when you go to the NFL, if you're projecting them, when you think that, hey, you know what, the pockets is not going to be clean in the NFL. It's going to be a little pressure. Can you improvise, buy some time? You know what I mean? And complete a pass when you have pressure in your face. And the last image they had was the championship game. So do you want to take that at number 13? I don't know, man. And it's a tough one for me. But what are your thoughts, Severe?
I got Michael Penix as my QB2 on this draft. Before Jaden Daniels just started destroying all of college football, Michael Penix was my QB1. Just in terms of as a passer, he is the best passer of the ball in this draft. Those are great anticipation, accuracy. He is mobile. He's not a runner. He's not a dynamic runner, but he's a guy that, he can hurt you with his legs, right? That's kind of a last resort type of thing. But as we saw in the Texas game, he can hurt you. And also that Texas game, that shows you right there. The Texas has 2 defensive tackles that are going to be, pretty high picks, like, second, third round picks, and Tavondre Sweat. I forget the other guy's name. But those are, but they were applying pressure, and on a few occasions he was able to elude the pressure, reset his feet, and deliver accurate passes on time. So I think he displayed it right there that what he can do. Now, when he went up against a team that obviously his team was overmatched against in Michigan, and Michigan has dogs all across that defensive line. That was a kind of a different story. And he had a little bit of a tougher time there, but still his toughness showed through. And I think that you get him in the league, you get him in like a good offense that fits his skill set. I think he can really, really do some damage. Like I said, in terms of passing the ball, there isn't a quarterback in this draft that's a better passer of the ball than he is.
Oh no, man! So you're saying he's a better passer than like a guy like Caleb Williams?
Oh yeah. He's better passer than Caleb Williams. More accurate, throws, and more anticipation. Now Caleb Williams has a bigger arm, and Caleb Williams can make like the wow plays. But like just in terms of like
buy some time, like that magic in the pocket.
And do falling backwards, flick of his wrist, throw it downfield, 40 yards. Like he can do that stuff. But just on a down out basis, just throwing the ball, Michael Penix he's the best player in this draft. Like it looks natural. It just looks like passing the ball looks easy to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Hey, look, I appreciate the support, Raider Smoke 89. But hey, man. We're getting to this new segment that we've been starting, man. I think this might be your favorite segment. I think this might be your favorite segment, man. Hey, flag on the play.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business. We played it down.
Hey, man. Hey, look, flag on the play, man. Hey, man, lead it off for the people. And let us know what your flag on the play is this week.
Oh, man, my flag on the play. I think it got to go to what these people were saying about your boy Mike Vrabel, man. They are calling him Debo out here, man. They're saying Mike Vrabel ain't getting jobs because of his imposing figure. So I don't, I don't know what's going on with that, man. I do not know what's going on with that, man. They saying he is intimidating the people. That's part of the reason why he's not getting jobs, man. So I don't know if Mike Vrabel's out here punking people, but for them to not give him a job because of how he looks, he might be intimidating. I got to throw the flag on that one, man. I got to throw the flag on that one.
Definitely a flag on a play, man. Mike Vrabel's physical build a factor in not landing a head coach, an exec says. And if we go down here, it says, I had a GM at the Senior Bowl who mentioned to me that Vrabel's physical build, insider Diana Rossini said during an appearance on the Athletic Football Show, that he's a very large human being and can be very intimidating to people in an organization that are going to be part of these decisions, and that is a factor. Wow, that's crazy.
That's
but like
insane,
that's like he's not the first NFL player, you know what I mean,
at all,
to be a coach. You know what I mean? If anything, that's a shot at everybody else not named Vrabel.
Exactly.
What you trying to say?
All y'all look like some busters. That's what they're saying. Like,
man, this is crazy. And I think Rossini goes on, I'm just telling you, I've been in the rooms and somebody's physical presence can make a difference. Very interesting comments. It's kind of weird that when he's not a head coach, you start hearing this. Kind of interesting.
Crazy, man.
He's not a head coach, and then you start hearing stuff like this. I'm not saying it's fake or real or anything like that, but this is a real report. And I guess this is a real thing for Mike Vrabel. I think he's Debo. He's Suge Knight. He's the actual real life Suge Knight. I know AP got the Suge Knight name down pat, but man, they're basically saying this dude is Debo, Suge Knight, all in one, man. But yeah, this is definitely a flag. Definitely a flag. And I would say the next flag on the play is Kliff Kingsbury. Withdraws from the Raiders offensive coordinator search. I mean, y'all, I think we can all agree this is a flag on a play, man. We were like excited, you know what I mean? Well, some of us were. It was kind of some people felt like maybe we should have went somewhere else with it, maybe a Clint Kubiak. There were some people who didn't agree with it because of his stint with the Arizona Cardinals and how the offense looked under the eye test of just watching the game and watching Kingsbury coach the offense in Arizona. Some people had some question marks. Is he going to bring that to Vegas? But for me, I mean, we don't know what the offense would have looked like with Kingsbury, especially at OC, not head coach. As an OC, he took a year away from. Obviously, he was with the USC Trojans last college season, but a year. He took a year off from the NFL, and now he's back in the NFL as an OC. I think it's a good spot for him. We all know where he went to, the Commanders. He's the OC for the Commanders. But man, it's kind of frustrating, man. When this all unfolded on Saturday, basically, we found out that he pulled out, and then obviously we're gonna lead off with the next topic, but like Getsy getting the job, but it just and the fact that it's the comparison between the two candidates is like you got Getsy, and then you have who obviously got fired for being an OC for the Bears, and then you got Kingsbury, who's everybody's touting as like this creative mind, offensive mind. He'll be able to develop a young quarterback. Look at his experience with other quarterbacks. With Patrick Mahomes, he worked with quarterbacks like Case Keenum, Kyle Murray, and countless others. And obviously, last college season, he was with your boy Caleb Williams. Yeah. So we were a little bit excited because we knew that what that will come with. But with Luke Getsy, we're kind of like, what is going on, man? But how you feel about this? This is definitely a flag on the play. But how do you feel about this?
Definitely a flag on the play, man. Kliff Kingsbury was a guy I really wanted to be OC of this team. I felt he had all the ingredients that you would want for OC, especially for a first-year head coach like Antonio Pierce, is a guy that had been a head coach before, at not only at the pro level but at the college level. He had molded several quarterbacks in the past, that you spoke about. One that you did leave off was Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is a big one. They spent some time with Baker Mayfield as well, I want to say, at Texas Tech. So he's been involved with quite a few guys in the league. He was a guy that had a relationship early on with Kyler Murray. When Kyler Murray was coming into college, obviously, and then when he got him in the NFL, Kyler Murray had some of his best years. Well, but basically his best years with Kliff Kingsbury. So he's a guy I'm excited about, man. I really want this guy to be the offensive coordinator, man. And then, we fell for the banana in the tailpipe, man. We fell for the banana in the tailpipe, man. But dude, as they were saying in the Bay, dude catted on us. He catted off, man. So,
man,
but it'd be like that, man. It'd be like that. We got those early reports that they were closing in on the deal, and as they say, man, until the ink dries on that paper, man, nothing is set in stone. So. Some things happened, and he ended up not being our offensive coordinator. As you guys all know, he's going to be with the Washington Commanders, and man, we're kind of good, kind of on to the next one at this point.
Yeah, basically on to the next one, and it sucks because it was like I think there was a level of excitement with Kingsbury, yes. And then once it looks like that was our number one guy, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And I actually can play a clip of why it didn't work out. Give me just a second. Adam Schefter was talking about it on the Pat McAfee show. Shout out to them. Let's see here. Let me pull this up.
Christmas.
Say Christmas.
Hey, man.
That was live sound of Mike Vrabel. Kliff Kingsbury.
What you burnt, girl?
Hey, Christmas.
Hey, man.
When you have great coach.
Speaking of drama and controversy, Kliff Kingsbury was the Las Vegas Raiders offense coordinator on Friday when we did our show. Congratulations, Kliff. We even ran a clip of AQ Shipley talking about Kliff Kingsbury, how he's a grinder. He's there first before anybody else, loves film, will get the most out of his players. And then all of a sudden it starts lingering over the weekend. Actually, he's Washington Commanders offensive coordinator. I heard it was a contractual dispute with the Raiders. What took place? How did we get here? And congrats to the Commanders, I guess, finding an incredible offense coordinator. But what the hell happened with Las Vegas and Kliff Kingsbury, Shefty?
It was a contractual dispute. There was a disagreement over the terms. And my understanding, unconfirmed, but my understanding is that when we look at these teams around the league right now, they're offering their assistant coaches, by and large, 3-year contracts. And in this particular case, I think the Raiders were at 2, and I think Kliff Kingsbury's got 2 years left at least on the deal that the Cardinals are currently paying. So there really wouldn't have been any added guaranteed money by taking it on. Now, to me, it doesn't seem like a big deal, and maybe I'm missing something, but there was that disagreement over the 3rd year that I believe contributed significantly to the breakdown in these talks and to Washington going ahead and giving him a 3-year contract like most assistants have gotten during this hiring cycle, like most people have gotten. So I think it was a contractual deal where they in Las Vegas weren't willing to give 3 years. Washington was more than happy to give 3 years, and Kliff Kingsbury now is the offensive coordinator in Washington. It also goes to show you, it's really interesting.
Your mic is out, bro.
Oh, could you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear the audio?
Yes.
All right, cool. So basically, he just goes on to talk about Schefter. He talks about how like it's crazy how like we can report and let you know that it's close to being official, but something like this is very rare to happen. Like it doesn't happen too often where we tell you guys like it's close. And he even talks about how like we make sure that we word things a certain way, so it gives us a little bit of an out when something crazy like this happens. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that they said that the reason why Kliff Kingsbury is not the Raiders OC is because, the fact that he didn't get that third year. But I think it's more to it than that, man.
It got to be more to it than that, man. It makes absolutely no sense for the Raiders to identify him as their number one candidate, offer him the money that he wants to be the offensive coordinator, and then not give him that third year. It just makes no sense. We're paying John Gruden, we're paying, Dave Ziegler, we're paying Josh McDaniels. Offensive coordinators don't make a whole bunch of money. So what's, I think the highest paid offensive coordinator in memory is Josh McDaniels. So why? And that was $4 million. So why not offer just $4 more million to secure the guy that you identified as your top candidate? For us to not do that, it makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, and I just want to address this. Raider Nation 510 says Joe Milton better than every QB in this draft.
At what?
Hey man,
I got to throw a flag on Raider Nation 510. I got to throw a flag
on Raider Nation 510, man. Hey man, I give you that too, but look, man, I don't agree with this, man. I do not agree with this. He's intriguing. He got the size, you know what I mean. But this is not the second coming of AR-15. I think that it's two different prospects. But we'll see, man. It's going to be, this is just the beginning of the offseason. So teams are going to have plenty of tape, plenty of combine, pro days, all that good stuff before the draft. We'll see how everything shakes out. But I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be taken out probably in the mid to late rounds, in my opinion. If he gets picked early, that'd be crazy. But crazy things have happened. But, yeah, going back to the Kliff Kingsbury, man, hey, look, I just feel like it's just one of those things that there's more to it than, he didn't get a third year. I think just like a lot of things that we've seen in the past, it's going to be a couple months. We don't know now, but it's going to be some time. And then there's going to be a report of what really happened. And actually, I seen Keyshawn Johnson was talking about why the Raiders. I don't have that clip up, but he basically was talking about the Raiders and the contract was an issue, but also he didn't have the power to choose his staff like he wanted. That's what he implied and that's what he said. So I was just thinking in my head, and I'm sure there's multiple outlets, but if you think about it, and there might be some truth to that, because you know why? I think Deshaun Foster was hired as the running back coach, and this is before Kingsbury was officially a Raider OC. So there might be some truth to that, because usually if you get an OC, the OC's, probably putting together his offensive staff, the O-line, you would think that would be something where he would be in the room to make those types of decisions. But how much do you think, how much truth do you think is in that statement by Keyshawn Johnson by saying that it was because he wasn't able to pick his own staff?
I mean, I think that goes into the equation. As you said, man, we hired Deshaun Foster. We subsequently fired Kennedy Palomalu. We got Edgar Bennett already here. I don't think the Raiders want Edgar Bennett to go anywhere. So it's that's like you're a running back coach and your receivers coach. Like those are two very, very important coaches, especially on a team like this. So. It's a running and passing league. So, essentially, who's left for him to hire? A quarterback coach? And, as most people are speculating that we were already in talks with or already talking to Hugh Jackson and Pep Hamilton, who both have a history as quarterback coaches. So it's like, is my entire staff going to be set before I even get here? So I'm sure that played a role. So But at this point, that's all speculation. That's all speculation at this point. And as you said, in a few months, we'll probably get the full story down the line of exactly what happened.
And the reason why we have the right to talk about this is because I think it's an insult to our intelligence to think that it was just a third year. Like I don't think it was just because he didn't get a third year on his deal. Because if it was something as big as or the fact that he couldn't get his third year on his contract, then that would have been known in the beginning of the negotiations. And they would have never announced that it was close to happening. Because if you can't agree on the length of contract, then like and breaker for you, then it is what it is. But I think there might be some truth to he was not able to pick his own staff like he thought. You know what I mean? If he's gonna be there, and he felt like you just heard Schefter saying that he felt like he had a lot of leverage because he was still getting paid by Arizona, so he could just leave. And obviously he heard through the grapevine that Commanders interested. Boom, done deal. He's now the Commanders OC. So I just think there might be some truth. There's something that's missing from this. Like what changed from you being official or official? I should put quotation marks, official, to now like the Raiders possibly hiring Getsy at OC, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, man. Yes.
It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. But yeah, man. Hey, man. Look, we got people dying off the Debo.
Off the man.
He's talking about earlier. We're talking about Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel coming through on a lowrider bike.
You know what? I should have had that sound in the background when that article, the Debo sound. Yeah, man. It's all good. But yeah, that kind of leads us to our next topic is Kliff Kingsbury out, Luke Getsy in. And I should have put a question mark on there because it hasn't been officially announced that he's the OC. So let me ask you this question. Do you think that Luke Getsy is the guy, or do you think that the Raiders might have something up their sleeve?
Man. So I will preface this by saying this. Luke Getsy is not a guy that I was high on. And we've done shows in the past where we kind of talked about Luke Getsy, and he was clearly the last guy in our list. Now, I've done some research since then, and I've kind of warmed up to the idea of him being our offensive coordinator. I'll say this, though. If he is not the guy, that will be a bad look. If we go through this twice, oh, man. If we go through this twice, where it's like two guys are like essentially named offensive coordinator, and neither one of them end up taking the job, oh my goodness, that will look so. You think this looks like dysfunction? That will be the most dysfunctional thing I think I've ever seen out of any NFL franchise, bro. That will be a bad. This will be like when we were trying to find a coach. I think this when we ended up with Lane Kiffin, when we brought Steve Sarkisian in, and basically Steve Sarkisian told us no. So then we settled for Lane Kiffin, and that did not turn out well. That did not turn out well.
Yeah, nah. And just another thing too as well, I think, if we pivot to go to a better candidate, I'm not gonna be mad at that. I'll be honest with you. If it's for example, somehow, some way, Clint Kubiak kind of changes his mind and is like, hey, I'm not going to the Saints, and I'd rather go to the Raiders, then I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at that. If we end up, if this all ends with Clint Kubiak at OC, which obviously we haven't seen any reports like that. If anything, Clint Kubiak is headed to the Saints, but he can't officially sign until after the Super Bowl. So there's a possibility the Raiders could be contacting them for a virtual interview, and then maybe get an in-person interview next week, or just officially sign them to a contract if they like them from the virtual interview. Which I think they possibly talked to him. There was nothing official. I think there was a time where the Raiders did want to talk to him, but since obviously they couldn't get an in-person interview until after the Super Bowl, they kind of moved their eyes to Kingsbury. But hey man, if Luke Getsy is the guy, I was disgusted on Saturday when I found out, but I'm kind of warming up to the idea just because, like, all right, he fits what the Raiders are trying to do on offense.
Yeah.
You of all people should understand this statement right here. His quarterback was Justin Fields.
Man.
And he that was a quarterback that he wasn't a part of when drafting.
Exactly.
That's not the guy that he vouched for and was like, this is my guy. I could develop this guy. He just came in and inherited, Justin Fields was on the right, but a lot of people can argue and say, like, he didn't really do a good job by playing to his strengths.
So I'll say this. People talk about Kliff Kingsbury, and that is the guy that they want, right? That is the hot name. When the Bears hired Luke Getsy, he was the Kliff Kingsbury of that year. He's a guy that had spent time under Mike McCarthy, had success, spent time under Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, as a quarterback's coach and as a wide receivers coach under Edgar Bennett as well. When Edgar Bennett was the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, he was the quarterback's coach the year that Aaron Rodgers won his 2 MVPs, right? So he was the hot name at that time. He was the guy that, hey, you know what? Matt LaFleur is the hot offensive mind. This is his pupil. This is a guy that got more production out of Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback coach. He's working under Edgar Bennett, who was also considered a very good offensive mind and his coach, respected around the league. He's a guy that worked with Devontae Adams. Devontae said good things about the guy. So he was the hot name at that time. He went to Chicago. Into a questionable situation with questionable talent on the roster, first of all being the quarterback, and he didn't do well. So I don't put that on him, right? He did make some changes to his game to try to cater a little bit to Justin Fields, but at the end of the day, Justin Fields just ain't good. Justin Fields just ain't good. People are not gonna realize this, bro. Justin Fields, he ain't good. He's not good. Justin Fields has started 38 games. He's won 10 of them.
Here goes his rant on Justin Fields.
He's won 10 games. Look at through the same number of starts, Christian Ponder won more games than Justin Fields.
Oh, Christian way back.
Where is Christian Ponder? Out of the league, right? Like It makes no. I want to say Jake Locker won more games, than Justin Fields. But for some reason, we keep holding on to this thought that Justin Fields is a good player. He holds on the ball way too long. He doesn't read the field well. Doesn't get rid of the ball quickly. He takes a bunch of sacks, a bunch of turnover-worthy plays. He's not accurate. He's just not a good player. But because he can run fast and throw the ball far, we just hold on to this hope that he's somehow going to transform into a good player. It's not going to happen. Right. And the fact that they got rid of Luke Getsy, I think Luke Getsy was a fall guy because Ryan Poles essentially hicked his wagon to Eberflus and to Justin Fields, 2 guys that he selected. So if those guys end up being failures, that failure points directly back to Poles, the GM. So it's like, do I get rid of my head coach? And essentially, I'm going to have to get rid of the offensive coordinator anyway, because when the head coach goes, the offensive coordinator is going to go, and the quarterback that I drafted, or do I just pin all the blame on the offensive coordinator, who was a second failed offensive coordinator that Justin Fields has cost the job, and try to salvage my job here in Chicago. And pretty soon, they're going to figure out after next year when Eberflus gets fired, Poles gets fired, and Justin Fields gets cut, that they made the wrong decision.
Yeah, the thing is, man, with Justin Fields, I don't know if this make you feel better in any way. If Luke Getsy's the OC, I don't think Justin Fields is gonna come to the Raiders because of that experiment didn't go right with the Bears. He got fired from that job. He was the scapegoat. Yeah. So I'm sure Getsy's not trying to put his career on the line on a quarterback where it just didn't work. So I'm sure he's probably going to want to get his own QB in the draft, whoever that may be. So I don't think we could, if Getsy's the OC, I don't see Fields coming to the Raiders for sure, in my opinion. But also I want to add too as well is, and I forgot who made this point, but I think it's a very good to actually talk about this, is that hey, maybe the Raiders didn't want to give, Kingsbury a third year on that contract because we don't know how long AP's contract is. Is it just a 2-year deal? And he wants to sign his assistants to 2-year deals. He doesn't want to give that extra third year. Does that make sense to give an OC a 3-year deal and then the coach you just signed only a 2-year deal? There's a possibility that might come into play, but we don't know for sure what the contract looked like to say that. But it's worth like thinking about and asking that question. So there's a possibility in that. But like I said earlier, I don't think it's the only reason. But Ja Raider has something to say. He says, Adam Schefter said Kliff Kingsbury didn't back out of the Raiders' job. Magic Johnson talked him out of the Raiders' job to come to Washington. I didn't hear this. I don't know when he said this, but I just played a clip from today where he talks about why Kingsbury went to the Commanders, and he solely said it was just the contract. That's what he said. Now, hey, at the end of the day, more information will come out as each day goes by, like I said. So this might have been after the fact. He might have said this. I didn't see this. If this is true, that's crazy, man. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted Magic Johnson to buy a piece of the Raiders, because he was going to do something like this for the Raiders.
Facts. I mean, it's one of those situations where when you get a guy like Magic Johnson involved in your organization, that guy has power, man. That guy has pull. He has gravitas. He's won championships. He's a mogul. He's respected worldwide. So when you can sit a guy like that, it's like Pat Riley, right? What Pat Riley can do with the Heat. That guy is respected. I think that's part of the reason why we wanted Tom Brady involved in the organization, because Tom Brady is a guy that, hey, he's been known to be able to, it ended up falling apart at the end, but he was able to get Antonio Brown to focus just long enough for them to win the Super Bowl, right? And he was able to make that happen. He was able to get Gronk out of retirement, come back for one last run, and he won a Super Bowl. So I think that's part of the reason why they wanted a guy like Brady involved in the organization, as much as we don't like Brady because we're Raiders. I mean, I think that has something to do with it. So, when you have those type of people, when you get those type of people in the room, they can be very, very convincing. So I think, I can see something like that happening, but at the end of the day, man, I don't know if those other things aligned, right? If all those other things aligned where Kliff was getting everything he wanted from the Raiders, I don't think there was anything that Magic could have done to change his mind. So there had to be something that wasn't 100% matched with what was going on with us for that opening to even be there for Magic to lure him and say, hey, you know what? They're not giving what you want over there. Just come on over here, man. To bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, if you don't want your producer dancing all in your videos, come on over to death row. You feel me? So,
man, shout out to Mike Vrabel, man. Shout out to Mike Vrabel. But Marty Mart he says Washington called legal tampering, but I ain't mad at Magic, and then we owe them a beatdown. Yeah, man. If it's true, I didn't hear about this. This might be some new stuff that might have came out later today, so I can't say officially. I haven't seen anything. That being said, if true, man, the Magic effect is real. He was part of the Lakers, even though Rob Pelinka was doing everything. He was a big factor in LeBron James, and I'm pivoting to basketball. I'm using the example. He was a big factor in bringing LeBron James to the Lakers, which they eventually won a championship. Look at the Dodgers, part of that ownership group, winning owner. He was able to bring them back to their winning ways. And now he's with the Commanders, man. His impact is being felt in that organization right now. And if that's the reason why Kliff end up going to, the Commanders, I think, Severe, you might be frozen. You still there? Okay, I think we might have lost Severe. Shout out to my guy Severe, man. Hey, look, he's gone, but yeah, man. Hey, look, if it's true, if it's true that Washington did call, man, that's crazy. And Marty Mart, I feel you. That's the Raider, and you said we owe them a beatdown. So we'll see if we play them in the next year or so. I think we play them. We might play the NFC East in probably a couple years. So we'll see. we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, man, hold on one second. Let me get into the chat real quick. Alpha 1 says Washington is going to get Caleb. Washington is going to get Caleb. Yeah, it might end up being possible, but I think till then, I think Chicago. Let me bring in my guy. I think Chicago is going to act like they're going to be drafting him. Can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what the hell happened, man.
It's all good. But Alpha 1 says Washington is going to go get Caleb. I can see that happening, and especially with my guy at the Commanders at number 2, Kliff Kingsbury. There is that, relationship there, that connection there. But it takes 2 to tango. So I don't know if Chicago's going to be willing to not draft Caleb Williams, just because Commanders would be a better fit. He's from there and all that type of stuff. So we'll see. But if they trade down, I think even though it's one spot down from number 1 to 2, I think it's going to be a big trade compensation. Just because the value of it, everybody's going to want to trade to number 1 in this draft, especially if you need a quarterback.
Man, I think they're going to use that leverage to dangle it over the Commander's head, especially now that they got Kliff Kingsbury there. They know the relationship that Caleb and Kingsbury had. It's much like, well, not apples to apples situation, but when Chicago traded up for Mitchell Trubisky, who was another quarterback who had a more successful NFL career than Justin Fields, mind you. But when Chicago traded up for Mitchell Trubisky, that they have to give up a nice little change, nice little chunk of change to move from 3 to 2. So it could be a situation where, hey, they know they have the leverage there. They're going to essentially, sell that pick to the highest bidder. I think it's a little bit of a different situation because Caleb and Kliff have such a close relationship, and Caleb has kind of made his feelings about Kliff known. So it might be, maybe he can kind of grease the wheels a little bit and say, hey, you know what? If you can play hardball, they say, hey, this is the guy I want to play for. That might make other teams hesitant, but still, at the end of the day, that Chicago's going to, if they end up keeping Justin Fields, they're going to auction that pick off to the highest bidder.
J Red Nation says Getsy or Bieniemy as OC. I said earlier today when I see Bieniemy reports came out that he wasn't coming back to Washington, obviously with Kingsbury getting a job now. Pass game coordinator, because I thought Getsy was going to be officially announced any day now. But like I said, we've proven how that might, if it ain't coming from the Raiders, then we don't know for sure, to be honest with you. All these reports coming out, they really don't know for sure until, look, we just lost Kingsbury as a candidate. But I would say, think about Bieniemy last year, he was a little pass heavy. You know what I mean?
He was.
And his tendencies really showed last year as a play caller for the Commanders. That being said, there was a moment in time where he had a second-year quarterback that a lot of people weren't high on, leading the league in yards, or number 2 in the yards, top 5 in yards, passing yards. Obviously, that it didn't end the way they wanted it to, and they have some other issues. I think they have a talented running back with the Commanders, so you could tell it was more of I want to pass the ball more. I think that's the type of offense, and I don't think it's a fit for AP. And on top of that, a lot of people like to bring this up about Bieniemy, is he's not well liked by the players. He's not a guy, I don't know, that fits. Do you think he fits as a Raider coach?
So I'll say this. I made this argument when I was talking about Chip Kelly. The guys that create the environment in the locker room are generally the head coach and the team leaders. Coordinators play a secondary role there. But it's going to be it's generally on the head coach and the team captains to create the culture. That's their job. The coordinators, like I said, they play a minor role there. But if AP is there, I think he'll be able to act as a buffer between Bieniemy and the players. And I don't think he's the same type of guy that Ron Rivera is, who's going to, as soon as the first signs of trouble is there, he's going to throw his dude under the bus. I think AP, he has enough gravitas and he has enough pull to where he'll be able to pull Bieniemy to the side, like, yo, man, you kind of need to tone this down. And they're both guys that come from the Pac-12. They both They both have seen success in this league. They're both brothers. I think that they'll have a different kind of relationship than the relationship that Ron Rivera had with Eric Bieniemy. So I think it'll be a much smoother, like relationship between the two of them. And only hesitation I really have about Eric Bieniemy is that, how well does Andy Reid know Eric Bieniemy? Are we going into a situation where Andy Reid possibly has upper hand on Eric Bieniemy because he's a guy that, hey, you know what, like,
conflict of interest.
Like, yeah, man, it's like I taught you, is the master going to, or is the student going to surpass the master? I mean, I don't know, I don't know. But if it's a situation where Andy Reid decides to retire after possibly winning a Super Bowl, maybe then it's a little bit different.
Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell. The road to 4K continues, man. I need to get there. I'm right around the corner, so I appreciate the support. And my guy, the Severe Raider. We're going live on both channels, so you want to go make sure you head over there if you haven't subscribed to my guy Severe. So go to the Severe Raider and subscribe, like his video, do all that good stuff, man. We appreciate the support. But let's actually segue to this, because the other side to this whole Kingsbury situation, and we'll be done talking about it, but is that, did we miss out on a really talented offensive-minded coach? And just went because when the Raiders announced, like, they didn't announce it, but the reports came out, which means that the agent and the Raiders were comfortable with the reports to come out that they're close to a deal happening. And when they didn't get their number one guy, because everybody knows that Kingsbury was their number one guy, they don't end up getting him, and then he goes to Washington. So now we're gonna be watching. I know Raider Nation will be paying attention to Washington Commander football. I already know y'all about to watch some games to see how the offense looks out. But to hear Dan Quinn talk about Kingsbury, and to hear like guys like Richard Sherman talk about, like, man, he played against his offense and he was just amazed and surprised by some of the concepts, the pass concepts, the way he called the game. And after the game, he goes up to him and says, man, hey, man, you know your stuff. Like, he had a lot of respect for him. So this is an all-pro corner talking about Kingsbury. And then obviously I have a clip here that I'll just play right now. And this is
Kliff has always been somebody that I've,
just to give y'all the intro, it's Dan Quinn's opening conference, and he talks about Kliff Kingsbury. And man, I hope this is not going to be true, man. I hope he's terrible with the Commanders.
kept up with. Years ago, we both coached in college, and we first met each other at an award show and just kind of hit it off on that time, and then competed against each other. I certainly followed his career, through his time at Tech and then into Arizona competing. And so in the same way of why I wanted to hire Kyle years ago, like, he was hard to go against. He would stretch the field horizontally and vertically, and going against Kliff, those same feelings you had. This is going to be tough. Matchups, formation, speed, shots down the field, aggressiveness, boldness to go. And so as a coach, you were writing down some names, if this is something in your future, that said, if I get that shot, this is somebody I would want to talk to. And so that's where the start came from him. We're really pumped that he's going to be a part of it. Obviously, I know people talk about, his acumen with quarterbacks, and that's proven, but he's also an excellent coach. He's not just, a guy that's going to be with the quarterbacks the whole time. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that. And then with Joe,
So this is, like I said before the clip started, I said this is Dan Quinn, his introductory press conference, talking about his assistant coaches that got hired. Joe Witt, I believe, is the defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. But this clip was more about what he had to say about Kliff Kingsbury and how he compares him to Kyle Shanahan, and how he says when he goes against guys that are really talented and gifted or tough to go against, he says he writes his name down. Yeah. To remember when he gets an opportunity to be a head coach, I'm gonna make sure I hire this guy or have this guy in the building, or nearby, what I mean, to call him and let him know, like, hey man, hey, come to my team, be my offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, or whatnot. But I thought it was very interesting, and Dan Quinn is a guy that knows how to build out staffs.
Facts, man. Facts.
He's taking his team to the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan was his OC, who now is the coach for the 49ers, and he's one of the most respected NFL minds, offensive NFL minds in football. So how do you feel about the clip, man, and Dan Quinn talking about Kingsbury in this way?
Oh, man. I when I hear that, man, it is a shot right to the heart. I think I'm bleeding inside my chest. But I will say this, man. So this is where we need. And see, this is where I don't want to throw Antonio Pierce under the bus, but this is where having a guy with some experience in the league, where that is valuable, because having Dan Quinn there, who is a defensive mind, right, defensive minded head coach, defensive coordinator, former head coach. He can identify, like, know what? I went against this scheme as a defensive guy. I know how hard it was to defend this scheme. So that's why I'm choosing this guy, because I can see, like, know what? Dang, this was really difficult for me to go against. Or when I saw this on tape, this is really difficult for me to prepare for. If I had to come up with a game plan against this offense, it'd be hard. And while AP may have the IQ and the intelligence, he doesn't have the real world experience to have to have been the defensive coordinator, and going against these types of teams, right? So I think that's what kind of puts us at a disadvantage. I will say this though about Luke Getsy. A lot of people, like, a name that a lot of people kept bringing up was Frank Reich, right? That was a name before we hired. He's a name that everybody brought up, right? How many interviews did Frank Reich get?
None
that I know of, right? None that I know of. And Luke Getsy got at least 4. And I want to say one of those was I think he interviewed with the Commanders, if I recall correctly. So he got 4 interviews. He got 4 looks. Now, he didn't get any of those jobs, but the fact that he was just fired and people say he's a failed coordinator and he still gets 4 interviews for offensive coordinator jobs, and it's not like it's like a Rooney Rule situation. It's a situation where they're bringing him in off the strength of, this guy is well respected around the league. You hear LaFleur talk about him, you hear Devontae talk about him, you hear people in the Packers organization talk about him. Like, he's a guy that's very, very well respected, and they talk about his contributions to that team. So while that hurts not getting Kliff, that was my number one guy. I think if it ends up being Luke Getsy, I'm not going to be as happy as I was with Kliff, but I'm not going to be, down in the dumps about the hire. I'm going to give the guy an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I am too. I think when my first reaction, I wasn't too happy about it. I'm like, come on, like, why does this happen always with the Raiders? That was my first, like, come on, like we had our guy. I don't have a problem the Raiders targeting and getting their guy if it's their guy. Like, every team does that. But when you target someone and you don't get them, or a Commanders comes in and swoops in and hires them, and some people in the chat are saying that Magic Johnson has something to do with it, and this, that, and the third. SoCal Sal has something to say. He says it had nothing to do with money. I think the Raiders told Kliff they weren't willing to give up the farm for the number 1 pick. It's possible.
Possibly.
You know what I mean? He wants to coach his guy, Caleb Williams. The Raiders are picking number 13. The likelihood of them getting the number 1 pick is really slim. Really slim. And if the Raiders want to trade up number 1 in this particular draft, you know how much they're going to have to give up? They're going to have to give up picks for the next 10 years. Right. You got how many teams in the top 10 that want a quarterback? So that value for that number 1 pick is going to be high. Yeah. So, yeah, man, there might be some truth to that. And he so happens to go to Washington, the Commanders, and they're number 2. They're picking number 2 in the draft. So I'm sure in his mind, he's like, man, I'm close to getting Caleb Williams, and I'm sure if Magic Johnson has something to say, if that's true, I'm just going with the chat here. We just talking. If it's true, then I'm sure Magic Johnson's like, hey, look, we got the number 2 pick in the draft. Do you think we're going to draft Caleb Williams? Come coach your guy. You know what I mean? That's part of the conversation, too. I'm sure he probably added that a little bit. But, you know, if that happens.
But the thing about that is that he knew coming in where we were at, right? Before he even agreed or talked about even getting the Raiders, like, he had to know, like, yo, we're at 13. The chances of us getting all the way up to number 1 or slim to none. So that there has to be a realization. So for him to still come in and go through this entire process, and then, you know, we get to the 1 yard line, and for him to say, you know what, change my mind. Like, you know, like I don't think Caleb, maybe that's some of the incentive for him going to Washington, but I don't think that was the reason why he didn't come to Las Vegas. If that makes sense.
It's a lot of different reasons. Some reasons we won't know until some time goes by. You know, I haven't seen anything official other than, you know, the media saying that it was because of a contract issue, getting a 3rd year. I don't think that's the only reason. Is definitely a lot of different reasons they're not being talked about enough. And as time goes by, we'll find out the truth. Daniel Kim says, I said earlier, full court press for Kubiak, who hasn't officially signed with the Saints. He won't be able to do that until after the Super Bowl, because right now he is the passing game coordinator for the 49ers. We'll see. We'll see if that happens. We'll see. Hey, if we end up with somehow, some way, we end up with Clint Kubiak, I am not mad at that at all. I'm not mad at Up for Review saying Clint already in New Orleans, plus I don't want him. Oh, man. Hey, man. As usual. As usual, my guy JT in the building. Appreciate you coming through. He says he don't want him, and I'm sure he's getting the chat started up right now.
Nah,
but
facts.
But yeah, man. Hey, let's move on to the next notable quotable, and this is actually from the GM Tom Telesco, who was in a podcast. Shout out to them. I forgot the name of the podcast, but he did have a podcast interview, and I think he was talking about
really fill needs in the draft, just because when the needs we have at draft time, those needs are going to change. You know, you're drafting a player for 4 or 5 years. Right. So I'm really thinking more down the road, and I don't even know what our needs will be in a couple of years. So it's a lot of it's the best player there, but certainly we don't really fill needs in the draft, just because when the needs we have at draft time, those needs are going to change. You know, you're drafting a player for 4 or 5 years. Right. So I'm really thinking more down the road, and I don't even know what our needs will be in a couple of years. So it's a lot of it's the best player there, but certainly we don't really fill.
So, like I said, this is Tom Telesco talking about how he looks at, you know, the draft and the type of players that he goes for. If you want to break it down real quick.
Yeah, man. So essentially what he's talking about is, I think generally the debate, you know, among fans, among, you know, NFL executives, among the talking heads on TV is, should teams draft for need or should teams draft for best player available? And how Telesco broke it down was like, look, you know, when you're drafting a guy, you don't know what you're drafting a guy to hopefully stay in your organization 4 or 5 years at least, right? You know, if it's a first round pick, it's going to be, you know, that 4 years plus a 5th year option. If it's, you know, a second round and beyond, it's for, you know, it's those 4 years. You don't know what your needs are going to be in 4 years. So why basically, you know, confine yourself to just this very narrow view of what you need this offseason? You should, you know, generally draft best player available. And I think that's the strategy that most, you know, I think that's strategy that's most successful, because even if you have, you know, a team, you know, even if you duplicate some of your needs, you're still like, you just want to accumulate as much talent as you can as a football organization. And when you start accumulating that talent, then everything else starts to take care of itself, right? If you have multiple guys at a position, you can make some trades, maybe get some other assets, or you know, you can you can do some creative things where that eventually will help you out. And just because you're drafting best player available, those guys don't always work out. But if you're doing that consistently through 7 rounds, you're eventually going to accumulate, some good talent. And I think people saw the rosters he was able to put together in San Diego, or Los Angeles, San Diego. He put together some very talented rosters. And I think that philosophy is, part of the reason he was able to do that.
Yeah, I think teams kind of over-exaggerate best player available. I think it's best player available based off their needs. You get where I'm going with that?
I think that's some. I think that's some of it. Like if you have a quarterback and you're drafting number 1, you already have a franchise quarterback. You're not going to go out there and draft like if the Chargers were picking number 1, Tom Telesco's not going to go out and draft Caleb Williams. Like that wouldn't make any sense. But I think I think for the most part you try to stick by that philosophy, because when you don't, I think you bring it up all the time when me and you were talking, and we saw Peter King was like actually in our draft room, was able to see our draft board, and there were situations where we didn't go with the best player available. Mm-hmm. And I think that bit us in the butt. A perfect example, Byron Young, right? We had Jalen Hyatt rated above Byron Young. We elected not to go with Jalen Hyatt. We elected to go with Byron Young, and that is a decision that looks like it's kind of biting us in the butt right now. So it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. I think you have to be intelligent when you're doing it, but I think more often than not, you want to go with the best player available.
Right. And Rod Gass says Getsy has not signed yet, and Bieniemy just got fired a few hours ago. Why Getsy has not? Why has he not been signed yet? Something is going on. Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. It's been a weird few days. We thought it was Kingsbury, and then we're leaning towards Getsy based off the reports, but it hasn't been official. And guess what? I'm just gonna wait till the Raiders social media team, whoever, you go to their website, and if you see we officially signed this coach, that's how you know it's official. Like the Adam Schefters, all these guys. I'm not saying that they don't know anything. It's just we just got proved. We just got bamboozled the other day, man. We thought that it was gonna be Kingsbury, but it wasn't. So
yeah, man. That hurts, man. That hurts.
For real. 808 Raider says it's obvious Kingsbury went to Washington to coach Caleb. Washington and Chicago going to trade spots. Hey, that might be true.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, man. He probably thought about it, but it's crazy that he would do that all the way to the very end. Like we were literally at the altar. Yeah. Hey, just sign on the dotted line, Kliff. Kliff?
Exactly, right?
Where you go, Kliff?
He turned around.
You're like, where you go, Kliff? This dude ran, got in his car, and all you hear is, he gone. Nonfiction says, from rumors, Kliff wanted 3 years, but they were only offering 2 years. Yeah, that's like the main thing that people are saying. And that could be a reason, but I don't think it's the only reason. I think there's more to it than that.
It just doesn't make sense. Like Mark Davis was willing to spend what was it, $92 million just to get rid of Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. You don't think he would spend, like, even if we made Kliff Kingsbury the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league, right? We pay him like $4 or $5 million. You think he wouldn't just pay an extra $4 or $5 million for that 1 more year? Like that, I mean, I don't know, man. I just don't know. That just doesn't make sense to me, man.
JT says EB is a proven Super Bowl coordinator. Yeah, and another thing I would add for Bieniemy is the fact that, like, you got to give him some credit for the development of Patrick Mahomes. I think he's been there ever since he's been drafted, and the offense looks totally different since he's been gone. I mean, I think they've kind of turned it up a notch in the playoffs a little bit. Like, obviously to finish off season, Mahomes is going to be Mahomes. That Kelsey-Mahomes connection is always going to be there. Yeah. But I felt like they had almost the same group of players, inexperienced at wide receiver, like they did last year, and it looked a lot more smoother on offense. And then, Bieniemy leaves, and then obviously we've seen what happened. This year, it's been a struggle for them offensively, but obviously they've been able to win with that defense. This year, it's like a different identity for this Chiefs team. But EB, it's more of like, does he fit within his coaching staff, this locker room? Like, I don't mind Bieniemy, but I'm just saying, is he a fit for the team? And I think that's what AP was talking about. Is this guy a Raider? He was a coordinator for the Chiefs, but at the end of the day, if he's a good coach, he's a good coach.
Exactly.
But yeah, man. Hey, should we finish it out? What's real? What's not?
Yeah, man. I said him with what's real, what's not.
All right, man. What's real? What's not, man? And let me pull this up real quick. 1 second here. 1 second. My bad, y'all. My bad. Get it together. So Luke Getsy was the best option out of the remaining OC candidates. And I'm just gonna let you know, not. This is not real. This is not real. There's definitely a better candidate than Luke Getsy out there. But if you're just thinking with a logical mind, I feel like he does fit with a defensive coach.
Yeah.
It seems like his offense, has a running element to it. I think he likes to run the ball. Some people might argue a lot of those rushing yards might have come from Fields. Yeah, but we got the Bears killed us this year, and Fields didn't play, and they were able to win that game with a undrafted rookie free agent QB,
Yes.
and by running the football down our throats, and we couldn't do nothing about it. Like we couldn't stop the run.
Yeah.
That's a product of him as a coordinator as far as coaching the run game. But I don't know if it's Getsy as far as it's hard to judge Getsy because what we've seen of him his whole career is his 2 years as an OC has been with Fields, and Fields is still developing as a passer.
Yes.
So there's that. But yeah, man, what is that real or is that not?
I think if you look at the options that were like truly available to us, right? At that time, like everybody wants Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy was still employed. Clint Kubiak is a guy that, most people felt was already going to the Saints. You look at who else was really out there, and unless you're high on Chip Kelly or you're high on Hugh Jackson, I think Luke Getsy was the guy that was probably the best option of the people that was remaining for what we were looking for. I think we don't want a guy that's going to be a first-time play caller. I don't think we want a guy that's inexperienced. I think we wanted somebody that had experience running an NFL offense, and Luke Getsy has that experience. He just came off doing it for 2 years. Now it was kind of a mixed bag of success, but I think he's well respected in the league. He's a guy that actually has called plays, and I think while he was not my number one choice, I don't think anybody in the Raider Nation's number one choice. I think he was probably the best of some mid to bad choices.
I mean, look, Raider Ray, shout out Raider Way. Did Dan Quinn write any notes on the great Getsy? Nah, hell no, for sure. He did not, for sure. But that being said, yeah, like I just don't feel like he was the best. I mean, I think the impact of the Kingsbury situation, I think affected the hire too as well, because they probably would have went with Alex Van Pelt. You know what I mean? Because he got hired the same day that those reports came out. The same day we heard reports that he was going to the Patriots. Kingsbury, we heard the Kingsbury reports to obviously the Raiders. So I'm thinking that they probably told other candidates that they're going to be working with Kingsbury, and they might have lost out on Alex Van Pelt. But they might be high. Hey, who knows at this point? They could just be high on Getsy. The Raiders could be high on Getsy but not the number one guy though. Not the number one guy.
Nah, facts. I mean, and some of the times, these situations, they kind of work themselves out, right? I think about USC when they were hiring. This is going way back, right? When they were hiring a college coach, I forgot who the coach was previously, but Pete Carroll was like their fifth or sixth option, right? A bunch of other people turned him down. And then Pete Carroll turned out to be, a pretty good choice. Or even recently, right? When the Raiders, I want to say it was the first draft for John Gruden and Reggie McKenzie. And the guy we wanted to pick right there was Mike McGlinchey. And then San Francisco 49ers got word of that, and they jumped in front of us and picked Mike McGlinchey, and we ended up picking Colton Miller. Mike McGlinchey was more well regarded as a prospect, but we ended up with Colton Miller, and I think everybody would agree that Colton Miller is the better player. So sometimes not getting your first choice isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? We're gonna take it to basketball, right? A few years ago, the Lakers had the number two overall pick, and Ben Simmons was the number one player on the board, and Brandon Ingram was like the number 2 player on most boards. And I think if the Raiders the Lakers had been flip-flopped, they had the number 1 pick, they would have probably taken Ben Simmons. Well, Brandon Ingram turned out to be a better player. Or even more recently, most people had had Bryce Young as the number 1 quarterback in the draft. I think if Houston had been picking number 1, they probably would have took Bryce Young, right? But if they had listened to me, they'd have taken C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud is the better player. So, I think sometimes this stuff works itself out. So just because you don't get your number 1 guy doesn't mean you're not going to get the right guy.
Right. And 808 Raiders says, is this just me, or doesn't it look like Telesco's lost? Yeah, this like a little bit, like,
Yeah, man.
and I'm like this. And it's funny because, AP talks about, like, guys being a Raider. There's about this many players in the draft, and only 5 of them are Raiders. And they got to get guys that fit the bill. But I'm like, does Telesco fit the bill as a Raider guy? Man, he is a former Charger. So, he looked like a Charger GM, but I don't know. Does he look like a Raiders GM? I don't know, man. I think Ed Dodds and Champ Kelly would have been a perfect little combo, but that's a whole different conversation for another day. But let's move on to the next what's real, what's not. And y'all in the chat, let us know if it's real or not. Luke Getsy will have more success in Las Vegas than Kliff Kingsbury will have in Washington. Man, hey, I'm damn. The Raider fan in me is like, hell, you know what I mean? I want Getsy to be the more successful OC, obviously, but I think the Raiders kind of showed their hand, and obviously you can see the league respects Kingsbury a lot more compared to Getsy, but I think Getsy can have way more success than Kingsbury. The fact that he'll come to a team where they'll be all in on running the football, play good defense, and that can get us into the playoffs. If we get some type of dynamic quarterback play. When I mean dynamic, I'm not saying they have to carry the Raiders to a win, but he can get 15 yards using his legs. He can get a big play with using his arm, and you combine that with a good run game, Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer, play action, and then obviously defense is holding their own, and hopefully we make some moves to take this defense to a whole another level, and this will be the 3rd year in this defense. Mm-hmm. It's only going to get stronger, in my opinion. If the longer these players are in this defense, the faster they'll play. So the defense can easily take it to another notch. So you combine that with Getsy just sticking to the script, running the football, changing up every now and then, and getting some dynamic quarterback play. I can see Getsy. I'm gonna go real. I'm gonna be pro Raider right now, and say that it's real.
I'm gonna go the same, man. I'm gonna go the same, man. I got, like I said, Getsy isn't my first choice, but if you look at this previous year, right? You look at, despite how poor of a quarterback that Justin Fields is, and believe me, he is poor as a quarterback. Okay, 10 and 20.
Man. Hey, I'm gonna push back though a little bit. I'm gonna push back a little bit, and I know we talk about this all the time, but I think Getsy failed to play to his strengths, man. You know, as much as you want to get him, you want to get on him as far as a passer, but as a runner of the football, as a running QB, I think he's talented, and I felt like they didn't incorporate that in the offense, like until like maybe late last season. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big shot at Getsy. Is like, hey, at the end of the day, like we know that you have a system, but at what point do you recognize like these players are good at this? Do you want to start calling plays that will reflect on this player talent? So that's the shot at Getsy. That's the shot at Getsy. And because I know you're like everybody wants to point to Fields and say, you know, he can't do this, he can't do that. But I think you're making him look.
So I think it's the opposite. I think everybody wants to point to Getsy and say, oh, you didn't get the best out of Justin Fields. But like, this is Justin Fields' second offensive coordinator, and Justin Fields has not. So they tried the. I'll take the job, man. I'm not trading for Justin. I'm not trading for. They only got to give me 1 year, brother. Give me 1 year, $4 million, bro.
What kind of offense you gonna run, Severe? What kind of offense?
Bro, I'm running the air raid. I'm running the wide zone. That's what everybody. That's what all the hot coordinators are running right now. That's what Sean McVay and all those guys are running. But,
so you spent some time with Kyle Shanahan, you know, a year in Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, you know, interning over there, and he's ready to be the
SoFi, man. Straight to SoFi. I'm taking notes from Sean McVay, brother.
Hey, man. It seems like you can't go wrong with Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. If you're coming from that coaching tree, there's been some misses from that coaching tree, but for the most part, they've been pretty nice.
Where did Matt LaFleur come from?
Matt LaFleur came out of it might be. Hold on, I think Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, okay. And where did Luke get? Luke?
You're talking about the head coach for the Packers, right?
Yes.
You know, I think did they both coach with each other?
Yes.
I think they might have all coached with each other with Washington.
No, so he worked for him. He worked for Kyle Shanahan. He worked for Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, okay. So
and
Shanahan,
then,
I was right.
So, and where did Luke Getsy come from?
Mike McCarthy. I think he was under Mike McCarthy?
He was under Mike McCarthy, and then
Matt LaFleur. So you could indirectly, I guess you could say, oh, Kyle Shanahan, but technically no, he wasn't coaching under Kyle.
So he came under So he came from that same system. He came under. So he learned under Mike McCarthy, and he learned under Matt LaFleur. And there are some elements of both those guys in his offense. So I mean, I think more people deflect blame away from Justin Fields than to Justin Fields. I'm one of the few people, especially in Raider Nation. Like, there's so many of the people in Raider Nation want Justin Fields, and I'm screaming from the rooftops that he's not a good player, and they want to point the blame to everybody but to Justin Fields. And I think one of the things is that one of the reasons you don't run Justin Fields is because Justin Fields is hurt every single year. Like this year in the system, right, where he wasn't running a lot, he's hurt again. So you don't want to keep putting the guy that's hurt all the time in the harm's way. And they also had some offensive line issues. So I think, you know, one of the things that Luke Getsy gets criticized for is his, you know, overuse of screens. But I think part of the reason you use screens that often is because you have offensive line issues and you want to slow down the rush. It looks like our guys, Raiders Smoke, came through with another one.
Another one.
in my Khaled voice, another one.
Raider Smoke 89 says Kliff a J-Cat. Not gonna lie, I was juiced when we hired him, hoping for the best with Getsy. I think it's something deeper than a contract dispute with Kliff. Yeah, facts.
I agree, man.
There's way more to the story, but you know how it is. It's gonna take time for it to fully come out. It's probably gonna take a few days, maybe some weeks, some months.
Yeah.
But we'll find out. We'll be here to talk about it. But I think it's way more than just adding another year to his contract, which makes sense. You know, it's pretty standard to give assistants 3-year deals, not just a 2-year deal. So that makes sense. But I think the Raiders, if that was the only thing stopping the hire from happening, then I think they would easily add that 3rd year somehow, some way. Like, you know, it just doesn't make any sense for them to think that. But I appreciate the super chat, Raider Smoke 89, and you came back with another one. My God, Raider Smoke, man, hey, coming through, man. Appreciate the super chat. He said, check the tape, Pharaoh. Receivers were running wide open. Granted, it wasn't perfect, but Fields was
buns, bro. He was buns, bro.
I agree with Severe. Fields is not him. I'm like, hey, you know what?
This dude, Raider Smoke, bro. You know, brother, you know your stuff. You gotta give him a Raider. Give him a Raiders chant, man. Give my guy a Raiders chant, man.
I got you. Hey, man, I appreciate the super chat, Raider Smoke. Hey, man, all I'm saying is that Getsy didn't really play to his strengths like that. I think that he tried to impose his system onto Fields. Fields kind of took shots at Getsy, and guess what? You know, the Bears chose to not bring back. It says a lot that Bears chose not to bring back Getsy. If he was that great of a OC, you would think that they would probably keep him. But he was a scapegoat. They got rid of him. Not to say that Getsy won't be a good OC in this league. I'm just, at the end of the day, I think that it wasn't just, Fields is the problem. I don't think it was just Fields being the problem. I think it also has something to do with Getsy not really playing to Fields' strengths. And we know that at this point in his career, he's more of a guy that uses his legs a lot. And as time goes on, maybe he can develop as a passer. But yeah, man. Hey, now I have no problem with Fields, but I think you guys have made it seem like you guys don't want to have anything to do with Fields. Like if he comes to the Raiders for a 3rd or 4th round pick, I'm taking it. I'm taking it. I'm taking it. But you're like hell to the no. You're like this, man. Severe is right here. It just doing this.
Hell no to the no. Hell to the no.
Bro, if we get Justin Fields, bro, you will see the rant of all rants, bro. Like I said, this man is 10-28 in his career. Tyler Bagent went 2-2 last year. Tyler Bagent, undrafted Division II quarterback, won 2 games last year. The year before, I want to say Justin Fields won 3, something like that. Justin Fields is not that guy. He is not that guy.
Man, hey, and this is what Severe does every show. You always go at Fields like you want to make this a point. Hey, I'm telling y'all, this dude is trash. If you guys are consistently watching our shows, man, you know that every now and then Severe likes to have. We should have like a name of a segment like Severe Fields, and then it's all you. Literally, it's just gonna be you on the screen, and you just going bad. You just going bad on Fields, man, because that is not your quarterback. What happens if he kills it next season? Because you've been wrong. Hey, I'm be honest with you. You have your takes. You did say AR-15. Did say he wasn't gonna. I don't think. Did you say he wasn't gonna pan out as a QB? You didn't think that he should have been drafted high? I think that
I said I was down for drafting AR-15. I had him like clearly behind CJ Stroud. I think some of the people were worried about AR-15. Like if we set him down, saying like, oh, he needs to play people. I didn't think he should play immediately. I thought we should, if we were going to draft him, we should take the Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love route and maybe sit him for a year or two. And let him get reps in a controlled environment where we kind of control his development and not just throw him to the wolves. Now, obviously, he got thrown to the wolves and he had some success and ended up hurt. But I looks like I was probably wrong about that because if he comes out next year and he balls out, then it could have been a situation where
it's still early too. You might be right. Yeah. It's still early just because even though I see the talent, we all can see the talent. He did get hurt. And like if he's gonna keep if he gets hurt, keeps getting hurt as a young player that needs to develop, Man, because essentially next year is probably going to be a rookie season because he missed most of this season. And a lot of what a lot of people talked about with AR-15 that they didn't like was the fact that he was not as experienced. He needs to play more football. He needs that time to play some football. So we'll see how it shakes out next year. But you were right about C.J. Stroud. You were like, man, that was the guy. That was your guy. And, man, I appreciate Raider Smoke once again, man, for the super chat. Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate the support. It's all going to the production, man. Hey, the super chats be going straight to the production. I'm just letting y'all know, man. It's going straight to the production. Man, hey, people in Fields is trash, bro. I totally agree with you, man. Look,
bro, man, I'm telling you, man. I'm starting to move. I'm starting to Justin Fields. I know Justin Fields fan group, man. It's people that just don't like Justin Fields.
No. And Arkham Raider too. He points this out, and I hope everybody's clear about what I'm about to say right now. He says I agree with on Fields. Getsy needs to get his QB, get a raw. Yes, I've been adamant about the Raiders getting their quarterback in the draft no matter what. That is the first. That's how I want to play out. To be honest with you, if you really want to break it down, and we've talked about this before. I feel like, and shout out to Big Mike, he talks about this too as well, and I agree with this, is, hear me out, we get Russell Wilson. Most likely he's going to get released by the Broncos. If he gets released by the Broncos, whoever signs him, the Broncos, he's still getting paid by the Broncos. And he can sign a contract as cheap as possible and still get paid out by the Broncos. Like, he's going to get paid. He's going to get his money with the Broncos. So we can sign him to a cheap deal, still draft a quarterback, and roll with the best QB to come out of training camp. So you got Russell Wilson, a young QB, and obviously Aiden O'Connell. So that quarterback room improves tremendously. Obviously, there's more to it than that. We got to make some moves in free agency and the draft. But I kind of like Russell Wilson, man. If he comes available, I think it's gonna be a good fit. You got that experience. He's played playoff football. He's been a Super Bowl winner. He's played on teams where the run game was featured and the defense played well. So he knows how to play within that type of style. And I feel like the Raiders are leaning towards that with the defensive head coach and AP and the defense playing the way it had last season. You get a guy that's experienced, a veteran, and the fact that we're going to sign, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm just saying if we sign him to a cheap deal, that's not going to stop the Raiders from getting their QB in the draft. And just let the best man win. To me, in my opinion, it's a win-win because if a young quarterback comes in and takes the job, then, Russell Wilson, you either take this backup job or, you got to get out the building if you don't want to be here. But if he chooses to stay, you got an experienced QB in the building with a young QB. Imagine, and I'm not saying this happened. I think this is probably not going to happen, but I hope it happens. Yeah. If Jaden Daniels comes to the Raiders, you got Jaden Daniels and Russell Wilson. That's a huge addition to the team with the experience you have with a Wilson, and it takes our whole team to another level. In my opinion, I think the recipe for the Raiders to win next year is going to be good to great defense, running the football. It's early, running the football, and hopefully that the QB play is dynamic. And I'm saying that it's dynamic because whoever we get in the draft is going to be able to pick up some yards finally. Running the football, man. How many times have we watched the Derek Carrs and Aiden O'Connell? Let's be real, and there's 10 yards right in front of them. That's an easy first down. In today's NFL, you got to be able to use your legs with the way the defenses have caught up to the offense a little bit. You got to be able to change it up, keep the defense on your heels, create some explosive pass plays because defense are worried about you running. And if we get a young QB, I think that can happen. But that's kind of my vision. If the Raiders attack the quarterback position the right way, I think they add a veteran, a proven veteran, and then also draft a QB. But there's a whole bunch of moves that need to be made in the roster. let's say if we get Chris Jones at D tackle, there's so many different ways the Raiders can go. And Chris Jones is going to be available in free agency because I don't think they franchise him unless, who knows, Chiefs can pull something out of the hat and give him a contract. But if he's available in free agency, the Raiders should be – that's the number one guy in free agency for the Raiders. It should be on everybody's board. I think he's the number one guy in free agency. And if he's available, we got to get Chris Jones. But imagine a free agency getting Russell Wilson and Chris Jones. And I can see it happening, bro. They're all in on winning. They're trying to win now.
So I would say this, man. That has got to be the worst. I mean, I mess with you now. Nah, that is nah. I mean, I completely agree, man. I've been saying for a while, man. If now if we can get Russell Wilson on a vet minimum deal, which any team he goes to, I mean, I've talked about it in the past. The way his contract is set up with the Broncos, he's incentivized to take a vet minimum deal to be as punitive as possible to the Broncos. We can get him on a vet minimum deal. He's much better than a vet minimum player. That gives us a whole lot of freedom in terms of our salary at the quarterback position. We're going to have to, bring him in so I can roast this man. Know what we should do? We should trade a 4th-round pick to the Bears for Justin Fields. Then cut that bum to get him out of the league. I don't want that.
Hey man, it's gonna be real, and they're gonna be beefing. If Fields coming here, he's gonna be beefing with Severe, man. But yeah,
I like that. That's why I like Fields as a person too. That's what makes it so bad. That's why it pains me that he's so bad as a quarterback because he's such a good guy.
Hey man, you moonwalking right now. You trying to?
No, I like him as a person. He's good as a person, but as a quarterback, he's not a good. Like I like Jimmy G as a person, but we see what kind of quarterback Jimmy G was.
Yeah, man. Hey, look. Hey, and shout out to Yaya Hatamaki, my guy. He says, how will this affect our QB situation? Some are saying that we are now looking for a vet. Nah, I think they're still gonna draft a QB, and I think that they should be looking for a vet to add to that QB room. You know what I mean? You want to bring some balance to that QB room. Aiden O'Connell is gonna be just a second-year player. The Raiders, I believe, are gonna be drafting a QB, so that's a rookie. So you want to add a veteran QB. And I was just saying that, I know people have been talking about this, but I feel like this is a great move if Russell Wilson comes available. It's like a two birds, one stone type of move because you hurt a division rival because Denver is going to be paying for Russell Wilson. And I'm sure he's going to want he has a chip on his shoulder. That situation with Sean Payton, we seen the whole Sean Payton was going bad on him on the sideline. And on top of that, they went up to him saying that they need to bench him. They're going to bench him if he doesn't take a pay cut. And this is while they were winning. They went on a win streak. He was playing well. So I think there's a chip on his shoulder. I think he wants to prove everybody wrong. I just feel like and he's been connected to the Raiders before he got traded to Denver. He was connected to the Raiders as a possible spot. So I think it fits. You pair that with a young QB, man. I think it's the best route to go, in my opinion. But we'll see how it shakes out because we got to see how Denver handles the QB position because they do owe that money no matter what. So they're probably gonna not want Russell Wilson go to another team, especially a division rival.
Facts. I mean, and you look at it last year, right? This past season, there are only 2 quarterbacks in the AFC West that beat Patrick Mahomes. And one of them was Aiden O'Connell, and the other one was Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson beat him. I think they were on like a 5-game win streak. They beat him. They go into the bye week. Then out of nowhere, Sean Payton comes with the elbow from the sky and tells them that if he doesn't take a pay cut or restructure his contract and remove those guarantees, that they're going to cut him. And then Russell Wilson wasn't the same player after that. So I think I agree with Raider Smoke, man. I think that getting a guy like Russell Wilson on the cheap, he's going to, like I said, during stretches last year, he was playing at a Pro Bowl level. And we bring him in here. He's a guy that has experience, knows how to run an offense, can be a caretaker at the quarterback position, and also can be a guy that when you need a play made, he can go out there and make a play. I think that is the perfect situation. Bring in a young quarterback, whether we want to go up in the draft and get a guy like a Jaden Daniels, or whether we want to take a guy late. Maybe you want to take a flyer on a guy like a Spencer Rattler, who's like the same build as kind of a Russell Wilson, right? Has some of that same ability. Who's a guy that before he lost his job to Caleb Williams, he was going to be the projected number 1 overall pick, coming out, that year. So, maybe you take a chance on that talent late. You don't have to rush him onto the field because you have a guy like a Russell Wilson. You let all those guys battle it out. And, maybe he can learn under Russell Wilson for a year or two and then take over as a starter. But I do think, as Yaya Hatamaki was saying, we have to figure out what we want to do at offensive coordinator, because until we figure out what offense we're going to be running, we don't know which quarterback we're gonna want. What quarterback's going to fit that offense? I do know one quarterback that doesn't fit that offense. I think you guys know his name. You guys know his name.
Justin Fields. Raider Smoke 89, man. He says Russell Wilson will want to stick it to the donkeys. He'll have a chip on his shoulders. Only thing that worries me is that he'll have teammates that want to whoop his ass last year. Probably, man. I think Russell Wilson, when he came to Denver, he came in there with a huge ego. And they talked about all the off-field stuff, how he wanted his own office. He had his own team in there. And, Sean Payton came out there and he shut all that stuff down. And I think from that experience, I think he's been humbled. And I don't think, I just feel like it's a win-win, bro. It's a low risk, high reward move. You're telling me you could sign a veteran QB that's been to the Super Bowl, that's won it, that's played in playoff games in your quarterback room? Looking at a quarterback room from last year, one of the worst in the league.
Yes.
One of the worst in the league, if not the worst. You know what I mean? Aiden O'Connell, nice guy, but 4th round picks starting is not ideal. It's not, it's not something that you want. You got Brian Hoyer, came out of retirement for what? And what you about to say?
Look, now, if I say we talk about people that look like Raiders. Look at Aiden O'Connell. Tell me that guy looks like a Raider.
I don't know what Aiden O'Connell looked like, man. I don't know, man. He looked like, man. They compare him to some dude that would like see the
Super Troopers, a movie Super Troopers. Yeah, man. I've never seen that movie, but Aiden O'Connell is dead on for that dude, though. He could be that dude's like son or something, bro. It's crazy.
Man, my shout out to my guy Space Beast with the super chat. Hold on, Justin can't see the fields. Thank you, Severe. Hey, man.
Man, I'm preaching, man. I'm out here preaching, man.
Hey, I'm looking at it from perspective, man. He still has potential. He still could run with that football. He's probably one of the top 3 most dynamic players in football as far as using his legs. And then if you have the right OC, right offensive coordinator that knows how to play to his strength, then you could start incorporating those runs along with his arm. We didn't see that with him and Getsy. And that's like the diss on Getsy is like, man, like you could at least play to his strengths. I don't want to see a situation where Getsy comes to the Raiders and he's doing things that go against player strengths. The pass game is not there. But hey, at the end of the day, this is fair. He needs to get his guy at QB in order for him to run his offense. Man, hey man, y'all competing out here, man.
Hey.
my guy Raider Smoke 89 from I'm with the movement. Justin Buns Fields, guy.
Yes. Join me, brothers. Join me. We will let the world know.
Hey, man. Hey, look. All right. Hey, just to let y'all know, I am not on the Justin Fields train, but I'm just saying if it's a possibility with a different OC, though, not with Luke Getsy, for sure. That didn't work. So I'm saying a no to a trade from the Bears. But if it's a different OC and we get Fields in a trade for a 3rd or 4th round pick, I'm not gonna be mad at that. I'm not gonna be mad at that. But I will say though, like the Raiders only have 1 year to make a decision before.
Exactly.
That's the one thing I'm like, oh, I don't know if they could figure that out in 1 year.
Like watch what's gonna happen is that Justin Fields gonna come out there next year and he's gonna probably light the world on fire and get like a big extension and be trashed the rest of his career, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Telling you. Cause like I think he's making like $4 million a year now. If they pick up his 5th year option, that's gonna be $24 million a year. Or if they decide to sign him to an extension, he's gonna be making like somewhere in the 30s or the 40s. And it's like, bro, you want to pay that for like 1 year of production? Like, nah, bro. Not doing it. Not doing it, bro. Not doing it, man. Leave the buns alone, man. Leave the buns alone.
Tian Gann says Russell Wilson fits in Getsy's system. I think Russell Wilson fits in with the philosophy that the Raiders are going with on offense.
Yeah.
And identity is running the football and then setting up the pass play with play action.
Yeah.
And then go for the big play, take shots. We know Russell Wilson is a good deep ball thrower. Like, he's one of the best in the league. He's shown that in the past. And I think it would fit. And we know Russell Wilson was able to win with that formula of running the football, using play action, buying some time in the pocket. And I'm not even saying that he should be the starter. It's more so like, add that guy to your QB room if he's only going to come in for like, for how many, you know what I mean? A cheap, QB contract.
A vet minimum, likely.
Exactly, because he's still going to be paid the difference between, he's gonna be paid out by Denver, so he knows that he's gonna get his money regardless. So why would he hurt the team that he's going with? Does he want to maximize the team? Does he want to win? So if he wants to win and he's still gonna get his money from Denver, then just sign a cheap contract, and also you'll be able to go back to the team that did you wrong twice a year against the Broncos. And, we'll see how that shakes out. But if we sign him to a cheap deal, it doesn't stop the Raiders from drafting a young QB. That's the beautiful part about it. And if that QB needs some time to develop, perfect situation. If that QB's better than Russell Wilson, perfect situation. And if he wants to go to another team, cool, that's fine. If he wants to stay with the team as a backup, man, you got an experienced Super Bowl winning QB. I think it's just a win-win in my book. It's a win-win, man. But yeah, hey, man, this has been a great show, man. We appreciate everybody coming through. Man, we still got to find out who this OC is going to be. I mean, it could be Getsy. It could be somebody else. Who knows? We won't know until the Raiders come out with the news. The Raiders need to come out with the news. They need to come out with the official, like, hey, we just signed this guy at OC.
Man,
because that's the only way we're gonna believe it these days. If it ain't coming from the team, we're not gonna believe it. Because with the whole Kingsbury situation, obviously that's gonna just scar you for a little bit. but yeah, any last thoughts? Any last thoughts on what to look for the Raiders? Obviously, Senior Bowl completed. They were able to participate in that as far as like sending their guys out there and looking at the prospects. What's next? Free agency. The offseason. What are your thoughts, man, on what's next for the Raiders?
Yeah, we got the Scout Combine coming up. I think, this is kind of going to be where, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's going to be some guys that's going to go out there and blow up the Combine. It happens every single year. And it's not necessarily guys we would want to take. I think Joe Milton is going to probably destroy the Combine. But, he's not a guy that I'm sure we want to pick up. I'm excited to see what truly happens at offensive coordinator. I think that's going to be the most important hire of AP's tenure is his first offensive coordinator, because that's going to kind of set the trajectory for our offense going forward. So I'm just excited, man. Whether it's Luke Getsy, whether it's somebody else, man, just excited to see what happens, man. Yeah, man, it's gonna be. We still got a long off season, man. Got the draft coming up, free agencies, a lot of stuff coming up, man. So make sure you guys lock in. And one last thing, if you guys did not get your comment or your chat answered on the show, make sure y'all leave a comment down below, for sure.
Yeah, hey, man, that's a bar right there. That's a bar. And just in case y'all don't know what that like button looks like, man, make sure to hit that like button, y'all. Hey, man, just like you see it on the screen. You're gonna see it in a second. You're gonna see the thumbs up button is pretty simple, man. You see it on the screen. Just, hey, man, we want to keep coming back and doing this, man. If you haven't liked the video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell. We appreciate the support. Hey, man, we're going live on Mondays, so just make. If you guys want to know, I think there were some people leaving comments saying that when you go live, what time you guys go live. We go live on Monday evening, nights, late night edition happens, and then every now and then we might change it up. But just be on the lookout. We'll announce it on our social medias, community tabs, all that good stuff. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to say one last thing. I just wish I had an extra set of hands so I could give Justin Fields 4 thumbs down.
All right, man. on that note, man, we appreciate everybody coming through, man. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out, man. Appreciate y'all.
Peace.
Dude, you crazy, bro.
Great Pharaoh. The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the 5 rivers.
Believe that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
Just win, baby.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.